Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brendan with Cameron Art Museum. We're so pleased you're here. Extraordinary, special time in all our lives. This is the most exciting. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. The most exciting beginning of an understanding that we have not had for nearly 157 years as to the historical significance of our work here at the museum and understanding more about our own values and our own stories. And how is it we wish our values to be reflected, not only to visitors to the area, but to ourselves. Our built environment reflects who we are. And we're so excited by the new opportunities with Boundless now being on site in our public park. Our conversation today is being conducted by our mighty Deputy Director, Heather Wilson. She does so many things. Just keeping the museum going, but she took on being the project director for this entire endeavor. It's been a three-year-long process. And Heather is conducting the conversation today. And the individuals we are so honored to have here with us are Clark Morgan, who traveled all the way from Ohio. He has been a dedicated Ohio 5th reenactor. Clark was there for 30 years. And Clark, his face was cast for the Boundless sculpture. Yes. Stephen Hayes, the sculptor of the whole world. Clark flew into Stephen's studio a while back for the casting of his features. And Marvin Nicholson. Marvin and Clark have been our greatest teachers in trying to understand the story of Forks Road and the regiments who fought here on the front lines. Marvin and Clark have participated in reenactments here since 2006. Marvin traveling from Ohio, and they came with Battery B and with the Ohio 5th again today. So Heather will conduct a conversation between artist and subject and much more. We are so grateful for your interest. And your buoyant enthusiasm to learn these new stories with us today. Thank you from the bottom of all our hearts.
Thank you for being here today. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. This sculpture, the ability to create Boundless and present it to our community was a community effort. And it is thanks to you and donations from $5 and up that made this sculpture possible. We are so grateful to each of you. And as Ann said, this is just the beginning. We have just hired our first cultural curator, is Daniel Jones here. His job is to explore the connections between the sculpture and the Art Museum, and to explore the role of social justice in art, and to explore those connections. So we look forward to exploring this programming in the future with all of you. And there he is. There is Daniel Jones. Let's give him a big round. Our new cultural curator. So I wanted to start with a story. And we have, throughout these past 3 years, referred to the reenactors that told us the story as our story keepers. Marvin Nicholson and Clark Morgan, you are our story keepers, and you have been unconscious throughout this project. Clark, can you tell me a little bit about why, to you, the story of the United States Colored Troops is important?
First of all, I live in the state of Ohio, and I enjoy history, period. I got started in the Civil War. At that time, we called it reenactment, but I've been taught, as I learned, that it's more of a historical perspective than a reenactment, because some of those stories and those incidents could never be reenacted. My mother, who was born in Mississippi, I too was born in Mississippi. But my mother, who was born in Mississippi, she lived through the civil rights struggle all the way from the beginning, and she always taught us history. And I say to those out there who say that they never taught us a certain thing in school, but it's not up to the school to teach us everything, but it's up to us to teach our story. And so she instilled in me early on, and with that, when I started learning about the stories that Ohio did during the Civil War time, that time appeared to be called the Civil War, and studying my civil rights history, I needed to go back to the Civil War 100 years early to get the true story of the civil rights history of the 1960s. So that brought me into reenacting. I love the history and telling, as some of you may remember Paul Harvey, his tagline was the rest of the story, and being able to tell the rest of the story and to the little nuts and bolts that make up the story.
And Clark, you have brought the story of Milton Holland alive to us. For those of you that don't know, there's a quote, there will be a quote by Milton Murray Holland on the back of the sculpture very soon. And he was one of the Medal of Honor winners who served here at the Ohio 5th. Can you tell us about Milton Holland?
First of all, when we decided to start the 5th USCT, the regiment that came out of Ohio, that was one of the lead units in this battle here, I had no idea exactly who Milton Murray Holland was, other than he came from the state of Ohio and he was a Medal of Honor winner. And we chose that as a significant company because we had something to hang our hat on. At that time, I did not know, I knew he was from Texas, but I did not know he was born in Panola County, Texas. And as I stated earlier, I was born in the state of Mississippi, Panola County, Mississippi. So to start a relationship with someone from the other side, from moment one, was studying Milton Murray Holland. His father emancipated him and his two brothers at an early age. I think Milton was about 14 or 15 when he was emancipated. He came to the state of Ohio. His father sent him there so they could learn the trade of shoemaker. And they was learning that skill when the war broke out. When the war broke out, they tried to join. Granted, his father and his uncle back in Texas was politicians, so Milton Holland grew up in a political family. So he knew how to move people, okay? And once the war broke out, he wanted to enlist. But they were not allowed to enlist because he was a black person. Though he did not look black. Most of the people in this room call themselves Caucasians. Milton Murray Holland complexion actually was as lighter or lighter than yours. And they even offered him the opportunity to enter the service if people denied the fact that he was a black man. Not only to enter the service, but also take a commissioned position within the service. But he neglected to do that, or declined to do that. But he had an older brother, one of those other two brothers I was telling you about, named James. And James decided to continue to live as a white person. And he took a position in a white regiment from Ohio and lived the rest of his life as a white person. But Milton Murray Holland said he was a black man because they got down and for all the layers that he would be a black person, he wanted to fight and if necessary die as a black man, not for his own freedom, because he was a free individual, but for other blacks too, who was already being enslaved to be free. That's why I have so much respect for him, that's why I wanted to portray him as Bill Murray.
It's an incredible story. And so, for those of you who may not know, Clark Morgan is the color bearer in the sculpture Boundless. And this morning, he had the honor of placing the colors in the sculpture. What did that feel like?
It was a great honor. I don't consider myself worthy to have done that. But when I think about it, most of you have seen the movie Glory, and you see who will carry the colors, who will carry this flag. And initially, a lot of individuals, especially my wife's love interest, did say, he didn't care anything about the flag. But when it was all said and done, he learned a little bit more about the dynamics of the war and what they were fighting for and how important it was. At the end of the war, he was willing to carry the flag. And I think there's a lot of our, we're so diverse, a lot of our misunderstanding lead us to bad relationship. And once we can learn about people, learn the reason why stories are being told and the true reason that we're behind it, I think we all be willing to carry a flag or carry a banner or carry who we are and do it proudly. So when I was putting that flag in there, it was for all the people who have carried flags of all nations, of all branches of the service, of all causes, from the past all the way up into the present and into the future. And when they finally named it, the artist, that's all I was doing, I'm assuming, but when they finally named it Boundless, that's exactly how our frame of mind should be. We should not put any limitations on our mind. And so, when I put that flag in there, I put it halfway in there, okay? It didn't go all the way in there, but we hope to get it all the way in there. It was like putting that flag in there for all of the people who have sacrificed so many things in all facets of life. So it's for us to live as a country.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Marvin Nicholson a few questions if I could. Marvin, you've been reenacting for a while, and you have been coming to living history demonstrations at Cameron Art Museum for a long time. Can you tell me what the USCT story means to you?
Well, this will probably go back. To when I got involved with this. From 2001, 2032, 2000s, the 1900s. See how fast it goes. And during the 1900s, I was living in Horry County, South Carolina, as a retired public school administrator. And I retired early, and I was just retired. And incidentally, I became interested in a request down in Charleston for some African-American men to be involved in something, movie or something. Well, when I went down there, what it was recruiting for a new unit of the famous 54th Massachusetts. Now, so this was the early 1900s, which means the movie Glory had only been out a few years, and I don't know how many had even seen it. I hadn't even seen it at that time. This was the first awareness to African Americans that a lot about the Civil War, certainly about African Americans. I felt somewhat perplexed. Here I was retired from school administrator, educator, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know there were any other troops in the Civil War, and certainly I certainly didn't know they participated the way they did. I didn't know any of this. But here's what got me involved. The very first weekend we had a meeting down there. This unit was being formed, a unit of the 54th, the famous 54th Massachusetts that you see in the movie. It was Company I being formed in Charleston by the reenactors, the white reenactors, the Confederate reenactors. they were interested in doing, they were not interested anymore in doing, continuing doing reenactment battles, which they've been doing for years, years and years. There's some more reenactments going on for quite a while. And they would do some of the battles that had involved U.S. government troops, but of course they were reenactments, for black reenactments at least. So that was sort of the beginning of African Americans getting involved in Civil War reenacting. Now, I was told it was a hobby, but with me having the education above me, it became much more bad. I became totally addicted, and this is how I became addicted. The very first weekend, after they had a meeting, and I was asked to consider it. There was a reenactment plan in Dinghamsville, South Carolina, where the 54th had actually participated after the famous foray in the movie in Georgetown. Right. But when I went to that one, that's the one that sort of took me, because then I became involved with other reenactors, both Confederates and Federals, about that period of time, about that battle. And shortly after, there was another battle. Then I became realizing that this is something that just wasn't known. Then we were involved in a battle in Suffolk County, and in one of the areas where it was the county where Foxtown, where William Ellison was the largest black slave owner in South Carolina. You know, with the whole story, that's not the story. Right there in that, when we were doing the reenactment, we were to go to his home plantation and see his gravesite and all of that. And this, of course, started to think about there's a lot of mixed something going on here. So shortly after that, we were involved in doing some very, very outstanding activities, like going down to the Lusty, actually participating in these battles like that, participating moving around. Getting more and more involved, because let me explain the way we see it as reenactors, civil reenactors. The difference between a reenactor and, let's say, a historian. A reenactor is a living historian. Now, we become involved. When we have reenactments, usually that's over the period of a weekend. Things happen, starting from usually as early as Thursday, all the way through Sunday. And at that time, a lot of period activity takes place, and you become involved in it. Like at first, we certainly didn't sleep in motels. We slept out there where they did. And in the summertime, we maintained the 100% wool uniforms the way they did. So there's a lot going on. And I learned more from those forays. Here's why: because in the evenings, when the camps, when the reenactment activities would be closed, normally they would open up around 10 o'clock in the morning, and they would have a battle in the afternoon, early afternoon, and then the camp would close to the public. That left the camp to themselves. And then that's where the interaction took place, because then I became involved with, learned so much from people that have been doing this for years. And these mostly came from, actually, here in the South, Confederate reenactors. Now, Confederate reenactors in the South, they have to, they do what's called, they have two uniforms, because sometimes they have to portray Federal and sometimes Union. Confederate and sometimes Union. So there's a lot of knowledge that goes on there. That's where I really, it was really starting. Then I started doing my own investigation in every way that I could, and it involved my library. My wife was sitting there now. She can't wait. So she got a book burning. And really, really involved. And some of the most interesting things that we're involved in someone that is learning all the time, experiencing so much, and a lot of some of the experience. We've had some experience that reenactors that they experienced like some bad weather. I remember in one battle where the battle took place in a former, well, in a field, former field, where it was burrows or whatever kind of crop they grew. And of course, never changed that back in the day. And it rained. And first thing in the morning, when most of us got out of whatever we were on the top, stepped into full of water. And those are the experiences, which gives more to as a reenactor. And like I said, it's not a hobby to me, it's become a way of life. You experience it, you can also understand a lot how they experience these things. But mostly, because this was new for me, it was new for when I speak with people, especially African Americans, it was new to them too. You've been hearing about these things happen. When we were asked to participate a few years ago in Raleigh, from the state of Raleigh, wanted to recognize the 150th signing of the 13th Amendment. Okay. It has our unity to serve as a guard. And when the Confederate submarine was found at the bottom of Charleston Harbor and raised, and when the very first people that saw that historic ship, or what was left of it, was our unit on the USS Yorktown as we fired a salute. When the slave ship Amistad was doing a tour in Georgetown, South Carolina, and when they came to Charleston Harbor, our unit, we were on the shore and we fired a welcome salute to them. These are the kinds of things that we've been involved in so much of that.
Marvin, thank you. One of the most incredible artistic choices that Stephen Hayes made for the sculpture was to cast the faces of descendants and reenactors and African American veterans for the sculpture, for Boundless, so that the sculpture functions on multiple levels. It's not just about the past, it's about the present, and it's about the future. Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about that choice?
Yeah, it's about being able to continue on that story. Yes, I could have did a sculpture just random basis, but to be able to have the descendants or reenactors be a part of it, it brings along another part of like family, and it brings that tradition, so their grandkids and their grandkids will come here years to come. Like, hey, that's my granddad. And he was here, this monument was made to talk about the truth and march here. And it's going to keep passing that history on and on because these are histories that have been either washed over or erased that we don't know anything about. Nobody went into depth about this stuff. So being able to do that, it will bring people here for years to come, the next generations to be able to carry that story on.
Thank you, Stephen. I would love to show each of you a short video done by Morgan Potts at UNCTV. Grant Stewart's going to show that now. When I thought about describing the process that Stephen did, we knew that we wanted to show it to you. So please enjoy this short video montage.
is my first time doing it, so I'm proud of people, so. But you'll be all right. I've been here with you the whole way through. Keep your eyes closed. No, my left eye. No, we got to check that crease side. I will keep an eye on that. So you want to get your eyes closed in there? The way you got your face is the way your face is. I still want to slow it down. Left eye. Right eye.
So I'm just gonna ask one more question, and then I want to open it up for all of you, because I think you all have questions that I know that you would love for Stephen and Clark and Marvin to answer. Stephen, I just want to ask you, what does it feel like now to see Boundless in person? How does that feel to you?
It feels amazing. It feels great. I'm honored to have been able to create this. It'll probably take a couple of weeks for everything to sink in.
Yes, I feel that too. How about you, Marvin? To see your face out there, what is that like for you?
it's sort of hard to express some of the things that I've been involved with over the last 25 so years involved with it. But also fairly recent year, about a year and a half, Forks Road, when we discovered this existence, and then we started to do things. And the experiences have just been, it's hard to explain because the words that I guess we don't use that much, but it's really been extraordinary.
And Clark, what does that feel like for you?
It's probably the highlight of my reenactment career thus far, is to be able to lead, not even the statue itself in the monument, Boundless itself, but also to know that the company that I represent from Ohio has led so many other black soldiers into battle. And at the end of that battle, it is, you have the vision, you have what you set out to do. And so this right here is I look at it, but I see in the image of me is on that first figure there. But I'm seeing the past. I'm seeing all the reenactors. I'm seeing all of the true military veterans who are still serving. That's what I see. I see all the people who were enslaved. I see all of the abolition. I see all of that when I see that statue.
Absolutely. I'd love to open it up for questions. Yes, I knew some. I can pass the microphone to you if you'd like it.
Hi, I'd really just like to ask Clark and Martin what it was like to have that cast done of your face. I cannot imagine what that experience was like. Is it also claustrophobic? And I'd just like you to describe that experience.
Have you ever had a general anesthesia? It's truly almost like that. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. And Stephen does a great job in prepping you for what's going to happen. He lets you know how to hold your face and how it's going to feel and things like that. But you really don't know until it starts. And you heard as he saturated those sheets of plaster there and got them wet. It touches your soul to hear that. And every time he lays one on your face and put it in a certain position, he's pressing in all of those. It's like each one of those pieces of fabric was like a lash from the overseer's quilt. And you're thinking about that. But it's also one more piece of quilt that's being involved in who we are. Then you feel the water, you feel the warmth of it. After a while, you don't feel the water anymore, but you feel the weight of all that plaster on your face. And then again, it seems like you carry all those memories and all those stories and all of those individual lives that was given for Boundless to finally come into existence. And you think of all that at the same time while never leaving that stool that we were sitting on.
Other questions? All right, I'm coming.
What about Clark?
Yes, actually, one of the says, Harlan had to say, when we first heard about it, one of our old reenactors, James had said, he said that, well, we're going to have to remain in a common state for half an hour. If I can't breathe or something, we're going to have to have a 2 to 30 years, and all these horrible kinds of stories. But it didn't turn out that way at all. I believe I remember Stephen talking, when I knew he was talking, I knew he was talking to me or something. But I didn't breathe. I think I did exactly what I told you because it's amazing how he kept my age wrinkles and
Stephen, thank you for your time and your expertise and your inspiration for everything. Judy from Georgia. I first have 2 questions. One, have you ever had class with face masks and how do you feel? And 2, I was so fascinated by the shirts that you were wearing. And is that a symbol that you have created? Are you just pawns and a waiting time?
First of all, yes, I have had my face casted. I've actually had my whole body casted before. Yes, this is a shirt I designed. I'm going to wear it just about every time I get like an interview or something, public speaking. A lot of my work deals with capitalism, consumerism, and brainwashing, and ideas of the black body and how the black body is being seen today. What I want to do is change the narrative, change the way somebody views me or somebody that looks like me. I want to change the way the world sees African American person. But also want to give an example for kids, let them know that they're not a pawn, that they're not what the media or whatever predicts them to be, that there's a king inside of them, and they can be whatever they want to be.
It's a secret I'm James Simone, and I traveled all over the world and known many famous artists. I didn't know anything about you before I came. And after meeting and being in a minor capacity, I have recorded my presence of a part of this historical process that you are responsible for. Yes, there's Anna, yes, there's all of these committees, but you are the source. And speaking of that, now it gets a little freaky. Because I knew many of them since a 5-year-old boy, and witnessed her going into transplant stage and waking up being totally unaware of her environment and then painting her visions. Also, as a lot of people know, I'm the largest, actually the third largest collector of the work of Fergus Young. But mentioning the importance of that is that I've had a very strange reaction about this whole thing. I've been exposed to the collective subconscious. Ready? My question to you is, during all of your process of especially your sculptural things, your the mask, which somehow you're able to transform into bodies as well, you know, what's replaced the wood. I just can't help but think that you have that ability to understand and to connect to a consciousness that even though if you're not great enough, that maybe goes far beyond you as well.
Well, my question is much more in the technical realm. I noticed that when we were looking at the statuary, that there was a rank of 3, but there were only 2 rifles showing. Is that deliberate? Or also, what was the process of creating the body and the rest of the statuary?
All right, so there's a row of 3, but there are, I believe, 6 statues, 6 guns showing up in there, I believe. The reason why there's a third or 3 more on that row is because the right side of the figures are half, so you're not gonna be able to get that. I'm not gonna get that musket there. So it's half because we're gonna end up eventually putting the names of all the men on the flat side of the sculpture, so you can look at it as a relief or a silhouette.
Thank you. Steve, we need to really privileged to have you here, but more importantly, I think, to have the statue so placed that lots and lots of people will look at it, will talk about it. One of the things that I'm expecting is for people to ask, what did the statue look like?
And so I would talk about perhaps the number of troopers, the positioning, the carrying of the flags and so on. Can you explain to us how you came upon this particular juxtaposition of people, of movements, and those sorts of things? Because it's easy for us just to look at it, but you might have spent months doing this.
Well, I knew creative is that I was not going to be able to make, 2,000 statues. So we decided to make 3 rows of 3, of tone wood and black earth, and use the black surface of the 3 regiments to put those other names on. The reason why we did the castings of the people were also to, you have the DNA of their grandfathers and stuff, so using their faces to be a part of that. So this is why we came up with that design. I don't know if I answered your question. Hopefully I got there.
I think you do, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase my own question. But did you perhaps develop a picture and draw it?
Okay, so we did a couple of sketches, when I first found out about the project, it has developed, I guess you can say 90 years from what it was before. So we did a few meetings. I came up with one sketch of what I would be interested in, maybe what I think would be interesting. And then we came up with another sketch, and then they applied to the Z Rose Gallery, Z Smith Rose Gallery grant. We found out we got it, and then we tweaked it a little bit more, and we ended up coming up with what we got here. So it has mutated along the way, evolved along the way.
Great, thank you.
Hi, thank you, Stephen, and everyone. This is so cathartic. It's a catharsis. I walked into that room from the door, and I didn't want to go in when I saw statue. I didn't want to go in. I could feel it as I walked in the door in that space. And so we created, this catharsis for us because we are a collective, right? We are a collective consciousness. We're a collective unconsciousness. And the African diaspora, needs to be connected with it because we're so disconnected on the planet. And that's what you've done. My question to you is a personal one. So when was your catharsis? When did you cry? When did you realize as a person of color in America? And what did you do? Can you share that? What did you do?
I guess we were more referring to cash crop in the exhibition room, correct? The statues is right here in the exhibition in the gallery. When I was making that, it was more of me coming from a space of not learning much about that history. They didn't go into that depth of how many people were on these ships or how many ships there were transport these people from Africa or whatever on a 6 to 8 week journey. They didn't talk about that history. They went into the history of civil war and all the presidents and all this other stuff, but they didn't talk about that history about how many ships there were. So that's why I created cash crop, but also when we talk about today, when I outsource our business sweatshops in third world countries. There's an estimate 15 million people transported from Africa to America on a 6 to 8 week journey. And find the image of the Brooks slave ship plane made me think about how this still happen today. So I was looking at that Brooks slave ship plane, I looked at it and I was like, well, this kind of looks like a sweatshop where they got just enough room to produce as much goods as possible to ship from here back to America. And I changed all of those sculptures were then changed to a palette, which represents today, and talks about those sweatshops in those third world countries. I made that in 2010, that was my great pizza show. I'm not great, I don't think about what I'm great, I know I have a goal. And I am just simply in there grading. I know what I want to grade. I call it a machine mode, where I'm just producing. So, I'm not thinking about what I'm grading. That came out in 2010. It got featured on CNN, it got featured in all these features. And I probably about 2 or 3 weeks later, I just typed my name on the Google search and see how these images popped up. And I was just like, wow, I couldn't believe I made it. So I can't say I cried yet, you know. I'm still working. I'll never stop, I'm always working.
Stephen, I again want to say to you that you are a genius. I've lived in Wilmington all of my life. I've gone through many trials and tribulations. And I am so glad I'm living today to see that Cameron Art Museum selected you to do this type of work. It's just remarkable. It's unbelievable. So yes, we are growing a little bit in Wilmington. And those of you who remember Frank Johnson, yes, my God, I know he's smiling from the gates of heaven because of the work that he did with the infantry. And God bless you, but I just want to applaud you, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hi, Clark. I'm a member of the 5th United States Colored Infantry based out of Holland, Ohio. I'm a historical interpreter, and I'm also a descendant of 4 United States colored troops. My great-grandfather was one of the survivors of the Fort Pillow Massacre. Stephen, when you came into camp yesterday, I kind of jokingly had a conversation with you. You don't know how monumental. I'm telling you, this is monumental. There's been a long struggle to acknowledge United States colored troops. I have been doing historical interpretation for the Civil War since 1980. Wow. We, the 5th especially, have battle scars of people who do not want the history of the United States colored troops told. We have gone to events where they have had police in the parking lot because they were threats, because they didn't want the history told. The 5th has been all over, not only the soldiers, but also the civilians. That's why we are historical interpreters. So when I heard specifically, oh, there's a statue coming up, and I did my research and I'm saying, wow, wow, wow. Your statue is as monumental as the one in Washington, D.C., which is often threatened with vandalism. So people here in Wilmington cherish and protect. There is nothing like this statue. Tell the story, keep the story alive. And as other things regarding the negative aspects of history are taken down, we're going to put up. You have laid the foundation of what is possible. This art museum has paved the way because a lot of historical sites where the United States troops fought is either privately owned or public parks, and they're not, or state parks. And it's up to those communities on what they choose to do or not to do. So you people in Wilmington, you people in all over within the surrounding area, realize what has taken place this weekend. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, this is monumental. Bring your children here, tell the story, because as surely as these men fought the force of the road here, they knew about Fort Pillow. They knew what would happen to them if they failed. They went into battle saying, remember Fort Pillow. They fought with every ounce of their life. Look at the statue. They are moving forward into battle. They are moving forward into freedom. And because these men fought here in North Carolina, South Carolina, in the Deep South, they paved the way for education. This weekend we're portraying the American Missionary Association. Without them, we would not be. Freedom was not earned, it was fought for. And your statue, praise God, I'm a spiritual person. It is still in your heart to tell the story, to include descendants and historical interpreters or reenactors, if that's what you want to call them. But cherish and protect. Keep the story alive. Despite the development that's going around here, keep the story alive. And remember this day, this weekend. Tell your grandchildren. And I will tell my nieces and nephews about this moment because it's going to pave the way for a monument, possibly at Fort Pillow. Who knows? Thanks, Clark. Thanks, Steve.
Anybody else? Any more questions or comments for Stephen?
Stephen, as an artist, thousands and thousands of people will be experiencing your art, from old white guys like me and young black kids and everything in between. As you create such a piece of art, what is it that you hope folks experience when they take it in?
I can't really answer what I want, but I hope people will experience, because we all come from different walks of life, and we have different journeys. What I hope to do is connect people, multicultural, cross-generational, and create conversations that open up different communities, open up different doors for different people who didn't have opportunities. So I want to use my artwork to open these doors, to open these conversations, these discussions. So that's what I hope to do.
Any more questions for Stephen? Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Mary Brzezinski. I live in Wilmington. And Stephen, I would like to know when you decided you were an artist. Did you decide when you were a little boy, or you're still very young? So when and how did that all evolve?
Well, I can't say it was a decision. It was more like something that I always did. You know, I grew up like that. I worked until second grade. You know, I loved taking things apart and putting things back together. You know, I used to love to just wow my mom. Luckily, I had a mom that seen the talent that I had in me. You know, she bought me these tools, these machines, and allowed me to just tinker on it. You know, what I set out to do is not what I ended up in. You know, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. And I ended up going to school to get a master's in sculpture. You know, I didn't know how to talk about my work. I didn't know how to elaborate the concept. But my life experiences have helped guide me to learn about, to figure out how I wanted to create, or what my why was, why, or who I was, what I wanted to say. I love creating. I love using my life events to create these stories. And if I can use that to create a story or a sculpture that's going to connect with the next generation and help them grow from what I've been through and maybe connect them about what they're going through. And my job is done. You know, I want to wow our audience and draw them in to be able to talk about what I think. You know, I don't want a big statement on the wall and like, talk about what my work means. I want you to come in with your everyday life experience and then we create this conversation once again. So, to answer your question, I love making art. And I didn't always know I wanted to be an artist. It was just what I did. It was me, you know. If I can't make, I'll just be a zombie.
Hello, Little Steve is what I call him, but I want to say congratulate you today. I will no longer call you Little Steve because I see Big Steve today. So I just want to say I'm proud of you and you have done wonderful work here. And to answer your question about how long he's been an artist fresh out the womb. I had a project that was due the next day and my aunt said, you need to call your cousin. And he literally came over and glued a boat together for me in less than 2 hours. So, I'm very proud of you, Stephen, and you are really making your footprints in this life, so congratulations.
If I could, when I went into Stephen's studio, there was no order in it. It was like Frankenstein. It was all kind of equipment, machinery, tools, iron, wood, any product, material you could think of, it was in there. Machinery, and so when you see those things and you see the finished product, as he said, only he knows what he's going to do with that. Because if you go in and you say, what am I doing here? Is he going to take a mold of my face, or is he actually going to take my face off? But it allows you to be able to see the process, you know, and you see his work. When you see his work here, he's in his work. We're in his work. There's so much parts of the body that's in his work. And he makes that connection. And like I said, he did that for me as soon as I sat down there in his chair. He started saying what needed to be said so I could get ready for what he was going to do. And I actually was put in his hands. And he did the final sculptures and everything, detailing on it. And he does that with everything, whether we see it or not. We feel him. And that's, I feel you, brother. I feel you, brother.
I have a question about, I don't remember what it's called.
Support those.
Was the process the same as what we saw? And then one of the statues I noticed, she had a smile. And how long did she have to hold that, or is that added later?
So, yes, they were done in the same process. And what I do is I ask them to pose in a position that they would want their likeness to be left in. And that's how it did come. So I'm probably about a 15-minute process.
Any more questions?
Hi, my question is about economics and your using of race in economics. I was wondering if you were, a lot of the art that I saw today was in the past, 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. Did I just miss it, or are you planning in the future to do sort of current connections between race and economics and what's going on? And are you even going to touch politics?
Yes, we did kind of miss it a little bit. But like I said before, cash crop was made about 10 years ago. That talks about today and in the past. A lot of my work deals with events that happen in my life as well. So the cash crop is today. In the past, you have pieces like the Jesus piece, or This Is Gold, support tokens. You got Voices of Futures Past. You have Fancy Legs. All of those things talk about the day in the past, but most of it talk about today. Voices of Futures Past comes from today. If you sit there and listen to those voices, those actual kids from the ages of 12 to 18, they're living today right now. And they're talking about how they feel the world views them, how they see themselves in the world view them, how people treat them today. And then those of us, the older men, and it's talking about how do I, as a black man, help this young man grow from these problems that he's seen. Pieces like the Jesus piece that goes from when I was a kid and seeing someone who looks like me on television and me wanting to be like that man because that's who I see. I see myself in that guy. He's boasting about everything he has. I wanted those things. I wanted that Caprice on 20-inch rims. I wanted that shiny suit like Master P or Puff Daddy. I bought goggles and I had a bunch of goggles. I didn't have a motorcycle. I'm buying all these people motorcycles. That piece embodies everything about that. That Jesus piece, these guys talk about this, my blame, my this. But you look at that piece and it has these noose links on it. That necklace is a noose link. It talks about that same rope that you climbing up on. It's the same rope you get choked out by. If not you, then somebody that's trying to be like you. So I'm trying to change the voices. I'm trying to change this narrative to give these kids another hope, another way, another future, another way to be. If I can touch this next generation, y'all see my little kids running around here. They'll have other adults to look up to that look like them. To see these other examples of how they feel they should be. So I work this way today and the future and the past.
I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you to Marvin, thank you to Stephen, thank you to Clark. We're open for another hour, so you've got time to walk through Voices of Futures Past. You've got time to visit the gift shop and buy a Boundless merchandise. We have caps, and we have some amazing replicas of the statue that Stephen created. We also have some books and documentaries, but take this time to enjoy, and thank you so much for being here today. It means so much.
Oh, go, get it. Thank you. Oh, yeah.